Even with new maps, Ohio's primary drifts towards chaos. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Anna Staver, State House reporter for the USA Today Ohio Network, Derek Clay, Democratic strategist, and Bob Clegg, Republican strategist. Change the maps 5 times, delay a primary with no new filing dates. What could go wrong? To no one's surprise, the delayed Ohio primary for state legislative races is a little chaotic. On August 2nd, voters will decide primaries for House and Senate seats. They will run in districts ruled unconstitutional by the Ohio Supreme Court, but a federal court has ordered the state to use those maps. The problem is candidates running under these maps had to file papers to run 3 weeks before they were approved. The state did make some allowances for candidates to move, but that deadline may have passed, so some candidates find themselves in new districts. Some districts have 2 incumbents from the same party running against each other. Other districts have no candidates from one of the major parties, and candidates, no surprise, have filed lawsuits. Anna Staver, is this going to be a mess, or is it just an isolated mess? Isolated messes?
I think it's going to be a mess. You look at just the Columbus area, Adam Miller, Ben Leland, and Allison Russo all found themselves in the same district, and they were like, that was not our plan. You even look on the Republican side, Laura Lanise, who just announced yesterday that she's retiring and not running for re-election, got drawn into a district with another gentleman, and they never intended to be in that same district. It's really hard to run when you don't know where the lines are going to be. And that's the argument they're making, right? Like I think Adam Miller said, I would have moved to have been in the correct district so that I didn't run against Minority Leader Russo. Yeah.
Bob, why don't you just set up a new filing deadline? I know you probably need to change in state law, but these are unusual times. We went through this in 2020.
Sure, you'd think that you could do that, except you know what? The federal court that put in these lines basically didn't address the whole issue of the filing deadline. Yeah. And I feel the Secretary of State thinks, well, I don't think I have the authority since the court is imposing the lines, they should be the ones that then change the filing deadline. Yeah. So I think that's why we're where we're at right now.
Yeah, that was Frank LaRosa's guidance to the local boards of election, county boards of elections. Look, no one's changed the deadline, so we got to stick with what we had. Is it that easy? It's just a bureaucratic nightmare, or could there have something been done, Derek?
No, there's one common denominator in all of this, and this is the Ohio Republican Party. They've had several months, almost even a couple years to figure this out. And here we are with, folks wondering how they're going to, or where they're going to run, what the district lines are going to look like. Several hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been wasted from taxpayers because we have not properly went through this process in a way that the voters intended us to.
Democrats, Anna, smell a little bit of a conspiracy here, and the 3 Democrats, strongish candidates, are all in the same district now.
Yeah, so what they basically are saying is, I believe February 2nd was the original filing deadline, and these maps came out at the end of February. They were the 3rd iteration of maps for people who are keeping track at home. But the argument they're making is that you could have known when you were drawing the maps, because of the filing deadline, the addresses of every candidate who was running, because you have to list that as part of the record of your filing. And so they make the case that theoretically, or they believe possibly, that Republicans use that to draw them into districts together. Now, we have no proof of that, but the argument is this information was out there because the deadline to file had already passed.
And Bob, that's a tactic in the redistricting process.
I'm sure that's been going on. Democrats do it to Republicans, Republicans do it to Democrats. I don't think Republicans went out of their way because there weren't that many instances like that. And as you already cited, there were Republicans that ended up in districts with each other too. So no, and we also have to say, since the Democrats wouldn't agree to new lines, we're going to have to go through this again in another 4 years, because these lines that we have now aren't going to last that long.
Actually, it could be sooner than that, Bob.
Yeah, could
probably
be.
Next cycle, next year. It's a never-ending process. Derek, what do you? Our court's going to put a new deadline, because you could make a new filing deadline that would open up the races to additional candidates, which may cause a little bit of chaos, but at least everyone can run in a district that they know is theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. And just wanted to quickly go back to something that Bob said. I mean, the Democrats tried. Democrats tried to negotiate.
Republicans.
Tried to negotiate.
So did
and so many
Republicans.
times, the Republicans refused to meet with the Democrats, would not give them information, kept information from them so that they could advance this process, and it just didn't happen.
Well, Mike, things could be worse because today it was announced in New York State, all of their assembly lines have been thrown out. So we could have a situation where it could have happened even later in the process.
Yeah. So Anna, what is any thought at the State House what the courts might do? There were two stakes back to the Ohio Supreme Court again, and also a federal case.
Yeah, it's not clear whether they're going. There's a couple options. So the candidates who are saying, "Hey, I filed, but I got drawn into a weird district," they could just let them move into the district of their choice or into another district. They could open it up to everybody and cause a little chaos, but at the same time, it could be the most fair thing to do, or they could do none of it. I think Ohio law says that the filing deadline is 90 days before the primary, so technically that would have been May.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to predict what the court's going to do, but I imagine they have to do something given the way this is all shook out.
And we also have a time frame we got to deal with here in that, absentee ballots have to be ready for the military. And that's going to be, we're getting pretty close to coming up against that kind of a deadline.
Yeah, we start voting in 2 weeks on this one, 2.5 weeks, with early voting.
Yeah.
Right. And the turnout will be huge for this one,
Oh,
no
of
doubt.
course.
First week of August, no governor, no
Biggest
U.S.
turnout
Senate. Well, for executive and congressional offices, primary voters settled their races a month ago. The race for U.S. Senate is a major focus. The latest poll shows J.D. Vance with a slight lead over Congressman Tim Ryan. They're basically tied because the lead is within the margin of error. Tim Ryan continues to run lots of ads on local TV stations, introducing himself to voters. J.D. Vance has been laying low. His campaign faces complaints that it illegally coordinated with its super PAC during the primary. Bob Clegg, Tim Ryan is on television a lot.
Yeah.
News programs, trying to introduce himself to voters. J.D. Vance is getting a little bit of criticism from conservatives that he's laying a little too low and letting Tim Ryan have the stage. Any validity to that argument?
With the kind of political environment that we're going to have this year, Tim Ryan should be on 24/7 because he's going to need all the help he can get. It's an awful environment for Democrats. A Democrat winning statewide in Ohio, even in a neutral year, is tough. Let alone in a year where it's going to be a Republican wave. Tim Ryan's got a lot of problems, and the TV commercials aren't going to help him.
The poll shows him competitive, though. It's early, but it's...
Oh, he's been on the ballot how many times? Now, granted, it's Youngstown, but, he's been in office for over 20 years. J.D. Vance has never been in office. So, there's going to be some name recognition there that J.D. Vance doesn't have. But I think when the fall comes, you're going to see a lot of J.D. Vance, and you're going to be seeing him talk about how, Tim Ryan's responsible for $5 gasoline and 8.6 inflation, right now with this kind of environment, I don't think J.D. Vance has to be doing commercials.
How is he responsible for $5 gas? Did he go over to the gas meter and just turn it up to $5?
No, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline. He agreed with his president, Joe Biden, to shut down the Keystone Pipeline. Okay? That leads to $5 gas, trust me.
So, Derek, the poll shows that he's at this point competitive, Tim Ryan is. That has to help him raise money early on. It has to be one of the goals of his early campaign blitz.
Well, absolutely. It just shows that Tim Ryan is knows what he's doing. He's run a very professional campaign. As I've said on this program before, he is the original America First candidate. And this whole campaign finance law debacle that J.D. Vance is involved in just shows how much of an amateur he is.
This was where there's a super PAC that was supporting J.D. Vance and his campaign. They're not supposed to coordinate. The super PAC had a public website where everyone could see the information, including the Vance campaign, but it was pretty hidden. The Vance campaign knew where to get it. Others were late finding it, so it's kind of an end to run around the law, and that's what the complaints are about.
Yes, and Ohio can't afford to have an amateur representing them. $5 gas. The stakes are too high right now, and we just can't have someone that doesn't know how to apply the rules, follow the rules on their campaign, helping to represent us in Ohio.
The other big race is the governor's race. The poll shows that same poll that was taken about a week and a half ago shows that Mike DeWine has a big lead, 15 points over Nan Whaley. In the independent, Neil Peterson was in the poll, but Anna Staver, he may not be on the ballot. They're still analyzing his signatures, and there might be another wrinkle as well.
Yeah, because apparently we can't get our ballots straight, no matter what race we're talking about. Yeah, he is conservative. He's very far to the right of Governor Mike DeWine. I think that's a fair assessment, but there seems to be some questions, about how he filed to get on the ballot, and we'll have to kind of wait again to see if he makes it. What I find most interesting about that poll is how well he was doing with no television, virtually no name ID, and I think that is kind of a reflection of what we saw in the primary, that conservatives on the farther right of the spectrum aren't super thrilled with Mike DeWine. I am starting to wonder, and who knows, if we might get a situation like we had with Bill Clinton in the 90s where DeWine wins, but maybe he doesn't clear 50% at the end of the day.
Bob Clegg, one of the problems, according to Cleveland.com, is that Neil Peterson voted in the May primary as a Republican.
Well,
so now he's an independent.
That's the interesting thing about that, because his deadline to file as an independent was primary day. So on the very day that he, had a deadline to file as an independent, he's declaring himself as a Republican.
Did he vote early? We don't know that. Maybe he voted early. Maybe he voted a month early and then changed his mind.
But I mean, I think on that, let alone whether he had enough valid signatures, on that alone, I think he should be pushed off the ballot.
That's not good news for Democrats if Mr. Peterson's not on the ballot, right, Dart?
Well, this is a race that we got a lot of runway to go. The mere fact that Tim Ryan is within striking distance of, or I should say, J.D. Vance is in striking distance of beating Tim Ryan, then we got a lot of runway to go on this election.
You mentioned inflation,
yes.
Bob. You mentioned high gas prices.
Yes.
The last time we had a severe recession,
yes,
we had a governor seeking re-election. Who had a hard time with some members of his party, Ted Strickland.
Yeah.
He lost.
He did.
So we have a similar threat of a recession. Mike DeWine has some problems within his party. Should he be worried?
I don't think, he needs to be worried, but not about, once again, it's not about the economic issues. I mean, he can point to Intel and all of the great job producing stuff he's done. No, his problem is the right wing of the party, and it's all about, COVID and all of the things he did there. It's more that related. It's not related to that. Plus, I think right now most Ohio voters understand that what's going on in the economy is something that is really in the laps of Joe Biden and the Democrats, and it's been a federal thing with all their spending and all they're doing to try to shut down our energy production that has resulted in what we have today.
Can Tim Ryan run against the economy? Can Democrats run against the economy and target Mike DeWine, but also that's going to blow back on Tim Ryan?
Doing it right now. I mean, we are running on the failed policies of the Trump administration. Bottom line. We're running on the failed policies of the Trump administration. I know he hasn't, and we're still suffering from it. We're still suffering from it. The bottom line is, when you look at House Bill 6, when you look at the Dayton shooting and the non-action from the Republicans on the gun issue, abortion, all of these things are going to work towards the advantage of the Democratic candidate.
One other thing that happened was the January 6th hearings began on Thursday night. Here in Columbus, 1 out of every 3 televisions was watching those hearings, Anna. So it's on people's minds whether that continues. It was prime time. People could watch TV. I don't think there's any sports on last night. There was nothing else on, I guess. But that could be a factor in this.
It could be. You saw Marcy Kaptur up in the Toledo area talk about it specifically because her opponent, J.R. Majewski, I really hope I'm saying that correct. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong. But he was there on the day of the riot at the Capitol. And she makes some allegations about his involvement and whether that should disqualify for him from office, and that's going to be a very closely watched toss-up race. It's one where I think Republicans think they can pick it up, but Kaptur is a pretty seasoned, pretty well-funded politician.
Bob Clegg, J.D. Vance says there was massive fraud in the 2020 election. There wasn't. Yep. And a big tech conspiracy that led to Trump's defeat.
Yeah.
That's that's going to be raised in the issue? Is he vulnerable in that?
Well, yeah, no, I don't think so, because $5 gasoline's going to take care of that. I mean, we got to talk about people that are struggling to decide whether should I fill up my gas tank or do I buy groceries for my kids, okay? I mean, this is the kind of thing real people are dealing with right now, and that's going to be the number one concern when people go to the polls in November.
Derek, when you run down that list you just did, are you getting away from the economic issues, which is, according to polls, the most important issue to voters?
I don't think we're getting, excuse me, I don't think we're getting away from those issues. I think that those issues are in addition to the economic issues. I mean, the country is in a tough place right now. You know, we're divided as a country. You know, the inflation is off the roof, again, due to Trump policies. So, I mean, we're in a bad situation right now, and I think people are going to be voting more so on their conscience and wanting to get back to some sense of normalcy that they knew before the Trump administration was in office.
I thought we had normalcy when we voted for Joe Biden. Why hasn't he been able to provide that?
We all have short memories, Bob.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Anyway, the Ohio House has voted to ban transgender girls and women from joining high school female and college female sports teams. Supporters of the move argue it is unfair for athletes born biologically male to compete against females. LGBT advocates and others call it discriminatory. The Ohio High School Athletic Association says it's a non-issue. It has rules in place, and Ohio just has 5 transgender athletes competing this year. The NCAA has had rules in place for years. The ban was tacked on to another bill, and the Senate won't act on it until the fall. Anna Staver, Senate President Matt Huffman talked about it this week. He says we'll talk about the issue, but he didn't seem too excited about it and didn't like the way the House handled it.
Yeah, well, for one thing, it was passed at about 11 o'clock at night on a Wednesday, right before they broke for the summer. And one of the issues that I think he has and some of his caucus has is these bills have never had opponent testimony. They've only had 2 hearings in the House. So, you know, you want to hear from all sides, especially on such a controversial piece of legislation. But it also came with there is a clause in this particular one that passed the House that deals with how you would verify the anatomy of a student athlete. And the Democrats and doctors and LGBTQ advocates have kind of jumped on this because it includes an internal and external exam. And even the Center for Christian Virtue, a very conservative group here, they support these legislations. They were like, nah, we don't support this particular kind of verification. So it seems as though the Senate president is kind of on that page.
Derek, this is not a real simple issue. There are some LGBTQ athletes who say that transgender females should not be competing, at least on the elite level, with females. It's not as simple as far as the athletes are concerned as the politicians would have it.
It is a very polarizing issue, you know, and it's one that needs to be studied more. I mean, you know, Democrats and Republicans have issue with this issue, and so it's just going to have to be studied more.
Bob, why don't leave this to the governing bodies of the sports?
Oh.
I mean, why do lawmakers need to get involved?
No.
We don't have a state law about wrestling classes or what drugs are banned in track and field.
Mike, I agree fully. There are areas where I think government has no business being involved. And, you know, this is one of them. Sanctioning of marriage, I think, is another one, personally. I believe. I don't think government should be in the business of deciding who can get married and who can't get married. But this is one where I think you have to rely on the NCAA on the college level and the High School Athletic Association, obviously, on a high school level to come up with rules to deal with this. I understand the unfairness that people feel, and we saw that with this swimmer at Penn. You know, we saw how, you know, when it was a biological male that went through puberty and then, you know, transgenders over, it does give that person a athletic advantage. So you got to deal with that, but I don't think the government should be the one dictating how that's going to be done.
And the advocates for LGBTQ folks say this, you know, this is could be potentially harmful to young athletes in particular because they're already very susceptible to mental illness, and the suicide rate among transgender folks is pretty high.
Yeah, and sports are often a way to combat that. Like, that being on a team, playing with your peers is a way to feel included, and, the endorphins and the positive, emotions that you feel from success and victory in a sports team, and the camaraderie that you get. There's a lot of value to sports that isn't always attached to a scholarship. And they also make the case that, look, a lot, 2% of high school athletes go on to play Division I, and less than that go on to play college. A lot of these kids, they're not actually that good, regardless of whether they're a boy or girl. They're playing more for the camaraderie and the teamsmanship.
Mm-hmm. All right, our last topic. More than 2 years after violent clashes between Columbus police and racial justice protesters in downtown, Columbus City Council this week put limits on how officers can use force against peaceful protesters. The new ordinance restricts how police use pepper spray, tear gas, as well as rubber and wooden bullets to break up nonviolent protests. It also puts restrictions on the use of military-style equipment and vehicles, as well as police helicopters. The move comes after police were criticized for their response to the protesters, and the city has paid out millions of dollars in settlements for their actions. The Division of Police had already implemented many of these changes, but now it's city law. Derek Clay, do you think this will help the next time there's a emotional, potentially violent protest downtown?
Well, hopefully we won't see those types of protests again in our city. I mean, it was very unfortunate, what even led to the protests. But I think that this got a lot of, attention, especially in the Columbus community, because our Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, Franklin County Commissioner Kevin Boyce, and Council President Shannon Hardin all got pepper sprayed by the Columbus police. I think what this should tell us is that we need to have more training for de-escalation. We definitely need to have cultural sensitivity training, and how to de-escalate these protests before they even form and begin.
Is defining a peaceful protest going to be hard?
I think it's going to be real hard. And I don't know how you walk that line. I think this is great as long as the police, the FOP, everybody agrees to it. But my concern is, how do you define, okay, this is now nonviolent, but 5 minutes later became violent? Is it, one person getting hit? Is it a brick being thrown? I'm not sure. I don't know if the legislation addresses that issue at all, but I don't know how you do that if it doesn't.
It comes down to, what is permissible under a peaceful protest? When you block, High Street and cars need to get through, you don't have a permit to block High Street. And what do police do? Do they just let it go until it fizzles out? Or do they try to open up the street?
That's one of the questions, even at the State House, when they've talked about police reform on a statewide level, is what's the definition of a riot? Because 5 or 6 individuals blocking traffic can meet that statewide definition of a riot. So therefore, that could be the legal moment where you say it's no longer peaceful because they are breaking the law. But then again, is that violent, or would most people see that as being violent, or would that justify a rubber bullet? Probably, it's a very gray area of the law. And I think that's going to be a big challenge, not only for Columbus, but sort of statewide as we look at how we want to handle these types of events.
In an ideal protest, the police would show up in their regular uniforms and the protesters would stay where they're supposed to go. But in this one, Derek, it started out pretty rough. They were breaking windows and damaging property and vehicles. And even during the course of the protest, they're throwing bottles of water and other heavy objects at police. How do police protect themselves under these rules?
It's tough. It's really tough. If you're a law enforcement officer, you have training, but it goes back to the whole saying that Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the mouth, right? Yeah. And then once you get hit with something, then your instinct takes over. So, the best thing that law enforcement can do is try to provide as much training as possible for those types of scenarios and hope for the best.
Body cameras, Bob, and also one of these new rules is they have to have their name and badge outside no matter what they're wearing.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think that's all good stuff. I just, I don't want to see a chilling effect in all this with regards to law enforcement. Because, we're fighting a pretty big crime wave as it is right now. And I just don't want to have a situation where the police officers feel even less willing to engage because they're worried about what's going to happen to them.
All right, let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. And Bob Clegg, we'll start with you.
Axios has a new congressional dashboard which allows you to go into a congressional district and look at the most internet searched terms. And if you want to look at our two that are here in Franklin County, District 3, Joyce Beatty's, it's refugees and gay adoptions. And in Mike Carey's, 15, it's election security and guns. So that tells you everything you need to know about those two districts.
There's gerrymandering on display right there. Derek Clay.
You know, this week the State House is going to gain one more portrait of a Senate president. Larry Ophoff was honored this week as the former Senate president, and his portrait was unveiled in the State House.
And it was the same artist that did Billy Joel.
Billy Joel, absolutely.
Interesting. Anna.
An important piece of gun legislation goes into effect next Monday. That will be the constitutional or permitless carry. So folks will no longer need to have a concealed carry license to carry a weapon in their purse or their jacket. And I just, it's important to know that this law is changing and it's going to start next week.
Yeah, businesses are preparing for it and what the new rules might mean for them. My off-the-record comment is that the hearings started this week in prime time. They will continue this coming week, Monday, Wednesday and Thursday. Monday and Wednesday start at 10 a.m. Thursday starts at 1 p.m. You can see all of those hearings at our website, WOSU.org, also on WOSU TV right here, and also on 89.7 NPR News. We're carrying live coverage of those hearings and wrap-ups in all of our newscasts and also the PBS NewsHour. So check it out. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Continue the conversation on Facebook. Watch us on demand at WOSU.org or on the PBS video app. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.